Okay, how's everybody doing? Seeing lots of ones in the chat. Like little gamification. Mike,
Hey.
Paul,
Hey everybody.
and awesome. First time I've seen you in Cam, I think. My Nick. It's great. Colin is back. Awesome. I think there's some unfortunate news I saw on Twitter. It seems Steve Mackey's father passed away. Like I just saw on Twitter. I haven't literally like an hour or two ago. So I believe that we should believe he cannot make it then. Everyone send him his condolences. It's a really tough one. So unless he's here, I don't know. I swear I saw a tweet. Is he here now? Maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm joining from my laptop. I was having some technical difficulties. I'll be in a second.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for making it. Okay, I want to make the most of this time, so I'm gonna get it away. Colin's moderating. Take it away, Colin.
All right. Hey, thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody for being here. I think my job here is to talk as little as possible, so you can hear from 4 individuals who have a lot of expertise with Handshake and DNS and all the activity that's happening in the ecosystem here. Could I ask you guys just really briefly to spend a few seconds introducing each of yourselves? Paul, can you kick us off?
Yes, I am Paul. Y'all probably know me by now. NetApp Whippy. I love the internet. I've been thinking about TOD since 15, so over half my life ago. Just happy to be on the panel.
Cool. How about yourself, Mike?
I'm Mike Carson. I am the founder of Impervious, and I also, before that, founded Park.io.
Great. Mayank?
Hey, I'm just a community member, like enthusiastic about blockchain and all the technology is like empowering people. I'm based in New Mexico, USA.
And and myself, I'm Stephen Mackey. I've been working in the crypto space, doing product and growth and research and investing for about 10 years now. I was part of the early kind of Purse Bitcoin team and like launching the technical initiatives there, and then started my own fund and was one of the earliest investors in Handshake and helped launch the network. So I've been a part of the ecosystem since the very, very beginning, before Handshake was even an idea. And I've been trying to play my role in mismanaging as many technical projects and helping to like build the first like bootstrap like networking layer for the kind of the greater ecosystem to grow from.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Stephen. Thank you all for so related to the actual panel description today, some of the topics that the HandyCon team put down were extension of name claims and the upcoming Handshake halving. So I'd like to move to those in a second, but just real quickly to get everybody involved and keep things interesting. It's been a year since we did one of these at HandyCon, and just wanted from all 4 of you guys to hear quickly, however you want to look at this. In the last year, what's the biggest accomplishment of Handshake, or if you want to think of it in terms of what's working well for Handshake right now, keeping in we'll get to negative stuff too, but keeping in with the theme of positivity with the conference. Mike, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, for me, coming from the traditional domain industry, like it's always, it's a good. Well, first of all, I think Handshake is the best solution out there for decentralized naming, and it's nice to see a lot of people from the traditional domain industry coming in. Like Encirca was really early on, and 101 Domain, Namecheap, Pork Bun. It's great to see that. It gives a lot of validation, I think, to Handshake. And just on our side, Impervious side, launching Impervious Domains, I think was allowing a decentralized second level domain option on decentralized top level domain is I think is important step, and so that's been one thing that we've done this year.
That's cool, and validation is a good word for what you were describing before. Having that interest from the Web 2 world. Mayank, how about from your perspective?
Yeah, I see the upcoming having event a very important one, because so far the protocol has been working smoothly. There is no glitches, and every smooth like transition from to the having, it will gain lots of eyeballs. Like, yeah, the protocol has been working, and probably it will attract more VCs, and probably it will help assure us more mainstream. Like, that's what my thought is about having. And about the coming name claims. Earlier, when we had the first year of auction, they were like not too many people knew about it. But I see lots of people learning about Handshake. They're like interested about Handshake. Once they come into this group, they're like really interested, and they know like, yeah, this is the best solution out there, and they are getting stick to this ecosystem. So yeah, the coming name release in February will bring like lots of traction, which up.
I hear you. Stephen, how about yourself, your perspective from the last year, or what's working particularly well right now?
I think we've been through this sort of very elongated period of application-related sort of experimenting, and kind of the first ones being marketplaces, which is kind of what we would expect once people get their hands on TLDs. They're going to come in initially for speculation, and then they're going to want to speculate on the SLD side of things. So like Impervious and those projects, and the other future like secondary like markets that are enable like DSLDs, like those are going to be interesting. Of course, now we have like Superlink here now as well, with like surname TLDs and SLDs. So I think that's it's a good example of like, we first needed to see what applications could be built on top of the core protocol like as is, before we get to like understanding like what needs to come infrastructure wise. So I think we're definitely maturing naturally and in a good direction.
That makes sense. Paul, I saved the best for last here. How about yourself?
My favorite things of the past year, there's so many. I looked at the Shake for ideas because there's just so much that's always happening. Well, the Shake, one, being such a great resource for all of us to just come through and see what is happening, not only in Handshake, but in the general crypto community. The parent company of Pork Bun claiming their reserve TODs on Handshake was pretty huge, because this is like, not only did they go, oh yeah, we'll jump into Handshake, sell SODs and whatnot, having their own TOD in two different worlds. I thought that was pretty cool. And then for the kind of like more, I guess like a coder arena, SNSD going to V2 and Bob Wallet gaining multi-sig. I think those are two very big things that are just going to unlock more potential for the upcoming year.
But one other thing, if I could just add one thing that I forgot to mention, is that one thing that's big is the top level domain sales. I mean, those are like record, that's huge. Like they're selling, I think Namecheap bought 2 single letter TLDs for combined over $1 million, or something like that. So, I mean, that they're selling more than ICANN TLDs, some of these. So it's, and they're also, it's like the highest, like decentralized, like more than .eth, I think also. And so, yeah, I think that's that's another thing that's really validating and good.
That's a great point. I didn't even have time to mention it in my previous presentation, but just 3 names that were closed outside of Namebase, secondary sales, .s, .e, and .nft. That's $1.1 million of sales right there across the 3. So, I know sales aren't everything, but to Mike's point, having that, that's a heck of a way to get people excited about the community here. Wanted to be conscious of time here, and I know we touched a little bit on that, the halving, but we've got a lot of new people and old timers and in between here at the conference. Stephen, you've got kind of a gift for breaking down concepts. Would you be able to give a quick overview of what is a halving and what's the significance for Handshake? Why is this momentous?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So, we have like the basic mechanics of, the chain itself, where, we've got, 10, the consensus and protocol aims for 10-minute block times. There's things that fall on the outside of that range sometimes we get multiple blocks, but the idea is 144 blocks a day, right? There's 2,000 HNS per block, so that gives us 288,000 HNS per day, right, that enter the market. There's roughly 4 or 5 major pools that are like mining Handshake right now. And so Handshake's moved from this, early GPU, mined asset as we, bootstrap, the initial community of the network. And then that moved to larger miners getting interested, but not having an ASIC right away. So then they started mining with FPGAs. And then we got some of the earlier ASICs from Gold Shell and then now Bitmain as well. So we've matured to, a 2 magic ASIC producer, ecosystem, with varying price levels and, for people to come into like a few $100 at Gold Shell with some of the mini miners and, the larger, more efficient miners that are almost 9 terahashes plus that are in the $2,500 plus range at Bitmain. So, we've got these 2 rival competing outfits, which is great as far as the health of the network goes, but also a lot of these major pools. So these major pools are mined by other larger mining pool owners that have large warehouses of miners distributed all around the world. In this particular instance, a lot of those are in Asia. And so these major pools are going to now reach a point where there's going to be even much less HNS, 50% at this case at the point of the halving, that'll go on sale to the greater market each day. But I would reckon that most of these early miners are Handshake because there's these major pools, but there's these different operators that are mining, and just pointing their ASICs at those pools. So it's not the pools getting all this Handshake; it's the actual individuals themselves and the different businesses that operate amongst those pools. So as the asset becomes more scarce, I believe there's just going to be more of more collection, because name speculation seems to have been kind of the advent of the major interest in Handshake. So as we see less HNS going into the liquid, I would say greater markets, there's going to be more and more speculation for HNS TLDs and SLDs, hopefully using the HNS asset, depending on where you're at. And we'll see larger price markups there as the market begins to speculate with this lessened supply on the greater market. And so it's not just the sheer economics of supply and demand here. It's also mostly just from individuals, persons, businesses, adjusting, with the either increased volume of the USD BTC volume against the HNS asset as it becomes more scarce. But then, of course, we also have the other market kind of functions of the burning on chain and the secondary marketplaces. So a lot of this we're still learning in real time, but everything just points to increased greater demand of the HNS asset and the protocol as a whole, and a less amount of that asset being liquid. So it's just a good vector for
speculation. That's really helpful, Stephen. Thanks for going into that detail.
Try to do my best right off the cuff and not make it too long, but it's a complex thing.
Welcome to the club. We're getting jackets made. I wanted to also hit on name claims, like I mentioned before, one of the topics for our panel here, and particularly around, there's been some discussion around extending name claims. Mike, given your background in the Web 2 world, and that like Paul brought up a minute ago, Pork Bun has claimed a couple of their top level domains on Handshake. Can you, I don't want you to ask you to speak for everybody, but can you talk about, what you've seen in terms of the Web 2 perception of this idea that the Handshake's creators had to reserve these names and make them available for both existing TLDs and the Alexa top 100,000 websites. Has it worked? No, somewhere in between. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated thing. The whole collision thing, and also distribution of the names. It's a really complex thing, and I think they did a lot of things right. The founders, I think, like, for example, Namecoin, when they first launched, is like anybody could get anything for nothing, basically pay nothing. And so the whole namespace was squatted on, and like you couldn't really use it. And so I think they learned from that, and they, did it over 52 weeks. And they also reserved all these, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, so I think it's something that's, I think it's, a lot of people in the traditional domain space, and probably a lot of people are like, why do we need this? Why do you need a decentralized domain? Like, what happens if you lose your wallet? And so, we have to, I think that, I think there's a lot of things that were done right, but there's still a lot of problems that are hard that we're going to have to figure out along the way. And I think one of them is like, probably extending the name claim. I personally think one problem, after years of working in Handshake, one problem that I see is that the value of HNS, the coin, is not tied as much to the names. Like, for example, some of these TLDs are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, close to $1 million, but the coin just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping to almost zero, and that affects the security of the blockchain. So I think, there's work to be done. Like, you can't expect them to get it all right at the first time, and so I think that, we need developers, we need developers to work this out, to figure all this out, because it's a work in progress, and it's not something that is solved yet. It's just not solved, and it's something that we got to keep working on.
Sure, that makes sense. Paul, you're coming at this from a development background, among others. What, put you on the spot a little bit here. What do you think? Is a fork in Handshake's future, or ought it to be? And should more time be allowed to help some of these legacy web participants, adopt and interoperate?
Yeah, so I actually created a GitHub poll asking this very question, and just to have all these disparate thoughts in one place. And I'm of the opinion that we should extend, because we know about it, but that doesn't mean everyone else will by the time these ICANN TODs expire. I don't think they should be released ever. They should just be reserved, and then we can continue to interrupt with legacy DNS, because like Mike mentioned, I definitely see, if it's not extended and then anyone else can just claim a .com, we're just going to become Namecoin. And then it's going to be really what's the point? This is it. I don't want us to be another one of these failed trash blockchain things, because it's just a whole bunch of squatters and first come, first serve kind of mentality for short-term success or short-term financial gain, just ruining things for everybody else long-term. So, we shall see. Right now, we're still kind of I think it should be this, I think it should be that. But at some point, we're really going to have to figure out, what are we going to do? And despite all of the, some naysayers oh, no, we should just have it wide open. I'm curious to see if these people will like create their own fork and just be like, yeah, everyone come over here. I doubt that will happen, but I mean, anything's possible.
That's some good insight there. Switching gears slightly, but I think this relates somewhat. Mike and Paul both brought up good points about the value of HNS and how, to what extent is that tethered? You need HNS to register and you need HNS to renew. What's a renewal cost? 0.02 handshake right now. So it's not a huge driver. And for some of these, some of those big ticket TLD sales that Mike mentioned weren't settled in HNS. Those were settled in either dollars or other cryptocurrency. So is that really creating a demand for the underlying coin? A lot of people probably saw in the news, probably saw on Twitter this week that, Namebase with their new feature in the search is increasing marketplace fees from 3% to 10%. And, I'm interested in this in part because of, I wonder if that's going to drive more people to private sales, just person to person. But Mayank, as a community member and somebody who is in the market as a buyer and seller for TLDs, do you have any strong feelings about the Namebase change? And I guess more generally, their new marketplace is coming up now. How do you see that landscape with these changes happening?
Yeah, definitely 10% is like a big increase from 3 to 10%. It's like 3 times the earlier one. So people are finicky about it. But at the same time, Namebase wants to like develop the ecosystem, so they need funds. So they come up with this thing. But yeah, definitely I see like more people going off the market and selling P2P. And there are like other marketplaces too, like ShakeDex, D-Name. So I think it's a blessing in disguise. If people can move to ShakeDex and D-Name, it will like better for the ecosystem. So overall, I see it's like a positive effect.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. And, Encrypted already has announced, I believe that he's going to be launching an escrow service, or has already. So you're right about the opportunity it creates.
Yeah, we need like more places. Namebase should not be the only one. It's like against the whole ethos of what we're working on. So yeah, so I'm happy with whatever Namebase is doing because they're not bad actors. They did good for us. They have some constraints or whatever. But yeah, I see people like trying to move to ShakeDex too, which is a good thing.
That's right. And, competition is good, just like Stephen was saying, as it relates to companies that are producing miners for Handshake and mining pools. More competition in the marketplace front is something that could help all of us. I'm somewhat neglecting my moderating duties by not looking at the actual Q&A panel at all here from the audience, but wanted to check in on here. So we've got one question. I think this is Mike Michelini copying and pasting for somebody, but Paul, it's directed for you, but anybody jump in. Says at HandyCon 22, I asked a question on any plans for Africa since there's so much potential there as its population multiplies over the next decade. Excuse me. Any progress? Any progress as aware? I guess let's broaden this maybe to talk about parts of the world where population growth or where English may not be the primary language. That's an area of Handshake growth and development that's interested me. But Paul, you have a first stab at any particular responses to the question. I'm not sure if this was a question to you last year or not, but they asked for you.
So I believe it was asked to me last year. Where I was at last year, the focus was I would create a platform and then allow anybody to just bring their TODs over and then they could, do their own thing. The night before Superlink came out of stealth, I decided to switch up that approach and just focus on not doing the platform, just launching my own thing first and then building things on top of that, because I think one of the major issues with Handshake adoption right now is just not having a lot out right now. Like, yeah, we have a lot of devs, we have a lot of enthusiasm, but we don't have much in the way of products. And I feel like seeing more products would encourage more and more people, and then get more eyes into Handshake and whatnot. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. And regarding like Handshake in Africa or any other country, just like what was mentioned earlier with like these handshake circles, there could be one in anywhere in Africa, and just like keep doing more of that community outreach stuff. But I haven't had anything like specifically geared towards any particular country. But now that it's brought to my attention again, I'm going to be more intentional with some ideas.
That's cool. And just plug out here for just one community member, but Sajjan in India, who's debuted his registry, has really focused on several Indian languages, non-English Indian languages, and giving people the opportunity to represent and express themselves in whatever their native language is. Seems like a really powerful use case. But like you said, Paul, more work to be done in terms of making that into something tangible. From Mike and Stephen, anything else? I mean, broad question, I know, but from the kind of global growth perspective of Handshake, we're very U.S. focused in a lot of these conversations, but any other perspectives you guys have in that area?
I mean, I think it's like a lot of the traditional domainers are like, why do we need decentralized domains? Well, go to like, Iran or something like that, and like, where they take down your website, or like, so yeah, I think like, this is a great use case. I would love to see it there. So yeah, so that's, I don't know, but there's also Sci-Hub. Sci-Hub keeps getting taken down. I mean, this is not about other countries, I guess, but Sci-Hub keeps getting their domain taken away. Like, I think that's a good use case. Things like that.
Yeah, I think outside of light experimentation with the Handshake protocol and like resolving names, it's very difficult for people in other regions outside of, I would say, like the US to date, and certain parts of like China, given like a lot of those earlier exchanges that supported Handshake. It's really hard for people to get their hands on HNS just to experiment with it. And there aren't really any major sort of like, outside of the airdrop, of course, sort of like faucet initiatives that were like kind of present with the early Bitcoin community and stuff like that. And so, like, I think a lot of the community, because there's this core other function besides like spending HNS for payments that you can use to like, your renew names, with the cost of that being, variable going forward into the future, wanting to bid on more names, people more conservative with like, giving out Handshake. So I think kind of one of the biggest limitations, especially in like, other regions of the world, that because we have the Bob Wallet ecosystem, which is great for trying out Handshake and stuff. But if no one has a way to like really load their wallet easily, like you pretty much stagnate the entire Handshake ecosystem, and the funnel for new community members is functionally non-existent. So I think that's just an important thing to like think about, like getting Handshake in the hands of like more people. And one of those ways is an emphasis on the HNS asset for payments until it does become more of a liquid asset that more people can get their hands on.
That makes a lot of sense. Mayank, I think maybe you were going to jump in there. Wanted to give you a chance before we moved on to one potentially our final question here.
Yeah, about I'm right. I go with Steven. So there's like definitely a hard way to onboard new people. Either go to download like Bob or go to Namebase. I think Namebase is cool, but Bob Wallet is not cool. They need something like how we had My Ether Wallet. So we need something, a web app to access Handshake names. That's what will bring like more people, because they can just go to like web and access everything. So that, I think that's stopping more people to join and experiment it.
That makes sense. I think we might have time for this. There was one good question from the audience that Mike just highlighted. what will happen when ICANN approves another round of new TLDs in 2025 with matching Web3 addresses such as wallet, crypto, possibly .eth and others? Who and how will those collision? It cuts off, but I think you get the gist of it. How are those collisions going to get resolved? Glad I'm the moderator, not a panelist, because this is a tough one. Any of you four want to take the first stab at it?
I mean, I'll say, like, it's a hard problem. We're doing different things than ICANN. ICANN has, I'm not like ICANN has value in some ways, and Handshake has value in other ways, and so it's different things. And like one thing is like you can buy Mic.com, Mic.net, Mic.org. Are those collisions? So I think it's just something that will probably resolve itself in its own way. But I don't think it's like it's not like this huge like end to Handshake or something. I mean, there's already some collisions, and it's not really that big of a deal, and there probably will not be many more. So yeah, that's my thought.
I also think that, I believe it when I see it. ICANN has been talking about like, hey, we're going to open up a new round. And it's just been like, when? Oh, a couple months out. It's been a couple months out for years. So, 2025, possibly. I feel like we still have a good amount of time left to try and figure things out. But yeah, I agree with Mike on this. It's going to resolve itself, especially if it's names like .crypto or like anything that's blockchain related. Blockchain enthusiasts might buy some domains, but they're going to go over to like the blockchain native naming systems for those.
I mean, one appeal to me, like from Park.io, we had registrars and stuff, is that ICANN they're so slow. I'm sure everybody agrees, even ICANN itself, they're so slow, and it's this huge bureaucracy. And like, .xxx was delayed for years because they thought like it might introduce porn to the internet and stuff. And like, it's like, it's just this slow, and that's the cypherpunk way. It's like, you're not going to change ICANN like by joining the organization and help. Like that's not going to change. So let's code around it. Let's code around this. So that, yeah. So I think, it's slow. Like Paul was saying, it's really slow. And that's the appeal of Handshake really is that this is a faster, like, different way to do it. If ICANN is listening, if people from ICANN are listening, if you want to compete against Handshake, start releasing the name. Like, release them now. Make it so anybody can register. Make it so it's not $1 million to register a TLD. Just open it up and make it cheap to register, and then you'll be able to like have a better competition to Handshake or some of these others.
I think we have a little bit of time. If Steven or Mayank, if you guys have thoughts on that topic.
Yeah, I too believe ICANN is not going to release a whole lot of TLDs. They are too slow. Even if they release like one TLD in the next 3 years, it will be sorted out. It will not be a whole lot of chaos. It will be sorted out by itself. But hopefully ICANN will learn of Handshake in like 2 years and not create a collision with itself, because I think they want like for the information to flow, and Handshake is the better solution, and we are integrating them. We are not like, hey, don't come here. We are integrating them, so it will be good for everybody. And I do believe they will join Handshake and make like a better internet.
My comment on that was, based on the information that's come out from ICANN thus far, with their interest in Handshake and the fact that they've looked into it, I think they kind of already understand it. So I don't really worry too much about kind of like bike shedding. And I think it's somewhat overemphasized sometimes, just about the idea of collisions, just because Handshake is, as open and communicable as you can possibly be as for an open like root zone. Like JJ and Joseph and everyone there is like, we're very sharp with the construction and the architecture of this chain. So it's like it can't get any better. It literally cannot get any better than it currently is. And any other arguments for additional like layered complexity to like make things quote unquote more fair, just actually like make things more like complex, and ultimately like it's diminishes like Handshake's value like long term. It's also an asset, right? It's a store of value, the HNS asset, just like Bitcoin, but also the names are these valuable non-fungible things as well. So it's important to like continue to like remember like that context. So we've intermingled value and information together. So I think we should just let the market forces like handle things and to stop worry about it like so much, because it just creates unnecessary negativity.
Great answers. Thank you, all four of you guys. I don't think we're getting the hook right yet, so I'm going to try to squeeze in another real quick question for all four of you guys. But the magic wand or genie's lamp question. If you had one wish to snap your fingers and change something about Handshake right now, what would you? And if so, what would that be?
A second client implementation. Just because, well, I know that JJ is working on that Mako C implementation, and hopefully we'll make that conversion over to Handshake. He's a man of his word, so I believe he'll do that. But I think that would just bring in another slew of like new interesting like developers that are like very used to like kind of bare metal construction of things, and kind of seemed like JJ worked really hard on that. So I think that'll just bring in a new different caliber of developers too, which I think is just important as we experiment, like not only just on applications, but when we go back to that infrastructure phase. I'm sure there'll be a lot of networking related things and other expertise that the community could evolve from.
Yeah. How about yourself, Mayank?
Nothing that I could think of, but yeah, I would have loved to like the names to be released like for like 3 years instead of 1 year, so that more people could have like being a part of the ecosystem. That's the only thing.
That's a good. I understand what you're saying with that. Paul, how about yourself?
I don't know, man. That is such a tough question. I guess it would be nice if we didn't have the like handful of conflicts we do currently have with I think it's like .kids and .music.
Right.
That's it. Like everything else I feel happened at the right time, and everything else is fine.
That's valid. And how about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big problem with Handshake is, and I love Handshake. I've invested a lot of my own money and also my company's money and stuff in Handshake, and I believe in it, that it's the best solution. But I think a big problem with Handshake right now that urgently needs to be addressed is the price of Handshake, because of the security, not only just the security of the coin, but also like the security of the blockchain, but also just people disregard it. They think Handshake's dead when the price goes down, so much. And also it has to be tied, the coin has to be tied to the value of the names, because it's just like, it's not matching up. There's a disconnect there. And I think some possible solutions, I don't know all the solutions, but some possible solutions are, a halvening, a preemptive halvening besides the one that's happening, have another one. I think the one problem is miners have so many coins that they're just selling it into oblivion. They're selling HNS into oblivion. But like one possible problem is there was a pre-mine, there's airdrop, this huge airdrop and stuff like that. And there's coin rewards and stuff like that. And I think the mining reward is based off of the total supply. The mining reward was based off of the total supply, which included this huge airdrop. So I think the mining reward is way too big. In my opinion, I think the mining reward may be way too big, which caused this huge selling. But also tying it to the value of the name, maybe I like Aaron Oxborough's proposal. I think it's interesting, like saying that you have to renew the names. You have to pay one HNS or something per year. I think that makes sense. But I think, one of the biggest problems, it would bring like if the coin was like, we all want the coin to go up, and it would help the security of the blockchain. So, and like, we can make it happen, we can change the code, and, we can do stuff to make this happen. So I think it's something that urgently needs to happen, because once the price goes up, that helps a lot of things. And once it's tied to the names, like, more developers will come in, more companies will come in. I think that's one of my major things is having the coin tied to the value of the names, and also just needing more developers. But I think that that would come if the HNS had better. Yeah,
they kind of go hand in hand. I think that we are at time now. So just really want to thank my panelists, Mike, Paul, and Stephen. You four I learned a lot from, including today. So thanks very much, and Mike, thanks for organizing. I'm pretty sure that the shake is the next presentation, but Mike, I'll kick it back to you, or maybe the session just ends here. But everyone, thanks for the great questions and participation. Enjoy the rest of HandyCon.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's just roll to the next session. Thanks, everyone.